tuning in today. Today we have a special guest, Mr. Tim Swain, who's an author, speaker, poet, and leadership development. He does leadership development work in West Africa with young men of color, and I'm really excited about having him on the show today. I met Mr. Tim Swain several years ago. I think it was 2011 when I was working with the Impact Movement, doing some theater development for a program. They usually do summer music, missionary work, and this year we were trying to develop some theater stuff, so that's how I got involved and met Tim and his lovely wife Tia, and it was a wonderful experience, and I'm really excited about today. So welcome, Tim.
Thank you, Deja. I'm actually rocking a shirt from that. You can't see it, but
Oh
it's
yeah.
print, as it looks like I'm titillating my chest. But yeah, but anyway, I'm glad to be here. Look forward to chopping it up with you and going from there.
Yes, thank you so much. So I just wanted to get started with how we normally do is I wanted you to tell everyone a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Most definitely. Well, my name is Mr. Tim Swain, and I just consider myself a person who wants to change the world. I'm a change agent, and I use different vehicles to do that. Poetry, writing, literacy, as well as emerging experiences. The main thing that I'm working on right now is an emerging experience in West Africa entitled the Ghana 360 Challenge, where we take young men of color from all around the United States, a very diverse group of men who call themselves men of African descent, take them on a 5 week experience, do a whole lot of leadership development, and typically when men walk away from this experience, what they gain is they probably gain about 2 or 3 years worth of college experience in 5 weeks. And it's an incredible experience, and all we're trying to do is build up these young men to go and impact the world. So yeah, so that's a little bit about me and what I do. And like I said, the poetry and writing and speaking, all of those are vehicles that help create change.
That's really amazing. So what got you started with working with Ghana?
What got me started, as you said, we met at an Impact conference, and prior to that, I went to. What actually happened was I remember going to an Impact conference in 2006, and it was the first time in my life I had been exposed to this amount of young African Americans, people of African descent that really love God. And the president of the ministry at that time said, "We're going to Africa next year." And that's the only thing that I heard. I knew I wanted to go to Africa. And coincidentally, the country that they were going to in Africa was Ghana. That was 2007, fell in love with it, and then realized that it was such a transformational experience in my life that I had to provide the same platform for other young men to experience that.
So what exactly do you guys do in those 5 weeks when you take the group of young men to Ghana?
Great question. Well, we focus on three main areas. We focus on building men spiritually, culturally, and professionally. The spiritual component is going over curriculum that helps them understand who they are as young men, having a biblical understanding of masculinity, manhood, how they ought to keep their bodies, how they ought to treat women, marriage, money, all of that other kind of stuff. The cultural component is really helping them understand who they are as black men. You look at some historical aspects of slavery as well as who were African people before they were enslaved in the Caribbean as well as in this whole Western world. And we go on excursions. And one of the main things that we do, aside from building up these young men, is we do service projects. Last year, we're able to provide about 250 kids with school uniforms, help construct a solar power technology lab. So while we're building into the lives of these men, we also believe in giving back to the communities that we serve.
That's awesome. Can you talk a little bit more about, and I know you just touched on it, but it's very interesting, why in Ghana? Why not here in the United States?
Why not the United States? Well, because Ghana is a place that has a lot of rich history, and although it's very hard to track where a lot of black people in the states originate from, historically and statistically speaking, we know that a lot of these folks probably came from West Africa. The relationships that we have in Ghana, as well as some of the other countries in Africa, but particularly Ghana, you can go and visit the slave captives. You can see where some of your ancestors potentially spent their last moments of their life before they came to this new world. And it's something you can read about in a book. It's something you can see on television. It's something that you can hear about. But to actually experience it is absolutely positively invaluable. And we want to take the men, last thing is we want to take the men to a place where oftentimes we ask them about 2 or 3 weeks into the experience. Have you ever thought in this past 2, 3 weeks, what, have you been reminded that you're a black man? And most of the time they kind of look, they give you that stare and say, I forgot that I was a black man and I just felt like an American. And that's truly an invaluable experience to get that consciousness of the subcategory of American, but just to be an American. It's absolutely invaluable.
That's amazing. That's really amazing. Can you share one brief story of something transformative that happened with a young man on one of your trips?
Yeah, there's so many transformational stories. I think that, I guess just some of the general things are, we've had men that have come and unfortunately they have not had a lot of knowledge about, in any nation outside of the U.S. And so, so sometimes men's knowledge is limited to, about Africa in particular. It's limited to coming to America and the Lion King. So when they get an opportunity to travel to a place, particularly like Ghana, where they are literally immersed in a culture where people look just like them, just the type of freedom and liberty that they have in being able to be unapologetically themselves. And, men just, I think a story could simply be most times on these trips, I would sit back and I would just watch and I'm just observing because a lot of times our men, just the freedom that they have to laugh, to cry, to just be themselves is indescribable. And to see that in action really takes you back to a place of really recognizing how important it is to provide the type of environment where people can just be themselves. And that's truly where potential is unlocked, where people can just be who they are.
That's really powerful. That's very powerful for you to have that moment where you can just be yourself and have freedom, just like you're saying. That's really amazing. So I wanted to kind of segue into your work as a speaker and a poet. And I had a very crappy segue because I really didn't have a good smooth segue, sorry. But we're going to segue. So you guys, I first heard Tim speak or do his poetry at the Impact Conference in, where were we?
I think it was in Atlanta, probably because we spent so much time in Atlanta.
No, we were in Louisiana, I think.
Was it New Orleans?
New Orleans, yep.
Wow, New Orleans.
And the conference goes like through like New Year's Eve and like culminates New Year's Eve to New Year's Day. And Tim did the countdown. Oh my gosh. It was so amazing, so moving, so riveting. Like, Tim is not the tallest dude, but his voice completely filled the whole place. So I was just like blown away that this guy like had this powerful message and this powerful voice that just like raised up this fire within the audience. And it was just amazing. So if you guys want to check out some of Tim's poetry, you can definitely check out his YouTube channel. Is it Mr. Tim Swain? Is that your YouTube?
Yeah, everything is Mr. Tim Swain. Okay. Website, social media, everything is Mr. Tim.
Okay. Yeah, so I will put the link in the description box below, guys, so you can check out his poetry and experience a fraction of what I experienced live. So I want to ask you kind of about what you do as an author, speaker, poet, and kind of what you do for your creative work, since this is generally what we talk about is creativity and the work that happens and how you continue to do that work.
Yeah, as you said, write, speak. One of my first passions is poetry. I got involved in poetry because as a young man growing up in Houston, Texas, everybody raps. And absolutely my rapper by choice, hands down, was Tupac. I mean, that was like my dude. And I think what Tupac offered me was he presented this narrative about life that hit me where I was. So in a nutshell, I could relate to him. and just being able to have somebody I could relate to, even though I didn't know him personally, was really powerful for me because I felt like he said the things that I did not have the rhetorical and articulate ability to say at that time in my life. And so growing up, I was like, yo, I want to be able to spread that same message to people. And in 2006, I've been writing for a minute. I used to perform on poetry slam teams. I love slamming. I love being able to get in your face and try to slice you up, you know what I'm saying, rhetorically speaking. And then really be able to chop it up with people on some real life conversations afterwards. But everything that I do, especially involving the poetry, the writing, I've written a book called The Bird Outside My Window, and right now working on another book. The title is TBA, but the concept is about hope. It's just really just talking about hope in this world where it's easy to lose hope. But all of that I do is really for the primary message of helping people understand and fulfill their God ordained destiny. I really believe that sometimes you can hit somebody in a verse or a song or a dance in a way that they can't relate in a church or hearing from somebody preaching or whatnot. And then sometimes, we have to be, as artists, we have to be the voice of the people because sometimes people, they want to say things, but they may not know how to say it. But when we can say it for them, then we can bridge that gap between the one who knows and then the one who doesn't know in an articulate voice that expresses with full passion and creativity exactly what somebody is feeling in that moment.
That's amazing. So so a lot of creatives are multi-passionate. So you're an author, a speaker, and a poet. So how do you combine these different passions when you go out and do speaking? I think you go and speak at different universities and different events. So how do you bring in that poetry part?
Yeah, I believe that the message is the most powerful thing, right? If any talk, anything like this. So, for example, if I'm talking about really being an agent of your own success, then depending on the venue, I may have a poem already, or I may write a poem specifically for that event that's about being an agent of your own success. And what I'll do is I'll reiterate those important parts, in a traditional kind of keynote address or whatever, then I'll reinforce it with the poetry. And people, facts tell, but stories sell. So people remember stories and they remember things when it's said and done creatively. So what I try to do is really combine that message with the articulate and the creative expression so that it sticks a little bit harder. So you may get me talking yada yada yada, and somebody in the audience may not hear anything that I'm saying. But when I hit them with that poetry, boom, they're gonna remember the poem. And some people may not, remember the poem, but they'll remember the talking or whatnot. So that's kind of how I combine it. Does that answer the question at all?
Yeah,
All
that
right.
did, because I did want to talk about how you bring yourself and your personality and your values to the work that you do. So I wanted to ask you, do you think that's important as an artist to like bring your personality to the creative work that you do? And if so, how do you do that?
I mean, I think it's essential. You have to bring yourself into it because the world doesn't need any more. The world doesn't need any more this person or that person or this person or that person. The world needs us. And I think for me, I'm still learning how to do that, but I know that I'm becoming more comfortable in it in all the nuances of my personality. I grew up in the hip hop era, so I have that. I've also worked in higher education, so I know how to bring like the professional piece. But I'm also a church boy. Grew up in a traditional Pentecostal hand clapping, running around, tongue speaking church. You know what I mean? So I bring that into it as well, and I think all of that really does, you know, give people an experience that they can only get from you. You know what I'm saying? And it's really difficult when people try to be somebody else, and they can do it for a while, but it's really like a square peg trying to fit into a circular hole. It just doesn't work. And you can push it down, you can squeeze it, you can hit it, and you can probably eventually get that peg in, but eventually it's gonna pop back out. Or it's just gonna look real nasty and irregular. And that's really how you look when you're trying to be somebody that you're not.
Right. Yeah. I like that quote. I think it's Oscar Wilde who says, be yourself because everyone else is taken.
Yeah,
I love that
absolutely.
quote. And I mean, that also goes back to the work that you do in Ghana, being able to be free and be yourself and get to know who you are, because that's half the battle right there. Just know who you are so that you can bring that to the work that you do. So I know everybody's wondering out there, where did the Mr. come from in the Mr. Tim Swain?
Originally, my stage name was Soothsayer, and it was taken from scripture, like the soothsayers, the ones who foretold the future, the ones who, had this truth, or had this truisms back in the day. And when my life was transformed by God, then I was like, you know what, this is probably not the best name I should have. And people just call me Mister for whatever reason. I don't know why people just always call me Mister. Instead of just calling me like, yo, what's up, Tim? They would either call me Tim Swain or Mr. Tim Swain. So I was just like, yo, man, I got this event coming up. I ain't got no stage name. Let me just go with Mr. Tim Swain, and that's pretty much it. I mean, that's what happened.
That's really interesting because I've been doing a lot of reading about branding, and a lot of it was to kind of look at how people see you and kind of use that for your advantage as well. So to me, when I was like Mr. Tim Swain, of course that makes sense. Like, it's just the way that you carry yourself. You're very personable and you're very funny, but you're also the guy that you feel like you can go to for advice or to hear your opinion on something. Oops, I hit something on my computer. But hear your opinion on something. So I was like, of course, Mr. Tim Swain. So that's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. I wanted to ask you, so when you do your work and you've had to kind of become an entrepreneur and still be a creative, can you talk about that journey? How you've had to learn the business side of being an artist?
I'm still in it. I need some help myself. But I think the journey, I'm still on it. I learned a lot actually I learned a lot in network marketing. I believe that, especially any person who wants to have their own business, here's the reality. Jim Carrey said this at one time in a graduation speech. He talked about how his father taught him many things, and the least of which is you can actually fail at what you don't want to do. So you might as well do what you love. And I think that in life we're gonna fail no matter what happens. I don't care if you're working that 9 to 5 good job or whatever it is. Like, failure is going to come, and I just resolved in my mind that I would rather fail, be miserable, and work my butt off for myself and for the Lord than for somebody else. And so the mentality of just knowing that I can't work for somebody for the rest of my life is something that I had to resolve. And sometimes I still wrestle with it, because according to some people's standards, I have the education that could really provide me some opportunities financially that I may not necessarily get. But I'll tell you something: if you make $1,000 in your own business, it feels like $10,000. You make $50,000 in your own business, it feels like $500,000. And knowing that you're not depending on somebody else to give you value and give you worth, tell you when you can come in, when you can get off. Now, I'm not saying it's wrong to have a job. What I'm saying is, if that job aligns with your purpose and your passion, then that's cool. But if you spend more time investing in a paycheck than investing in your purpose, then something is out of whack.
Yeah, that's so true. That statement is so true. When you make 1,000 in your own business, it feels like 10,000 because you did it, and you did it on your terms, and you did it in a way that it aligns with your purpose and your passion. Yes, I love that. So let me ask you about your being an artist and having to run a business or run your artistry through a business so that you can actually make it profitable so that you can keep making art. Do you come up with a business plan or strategy for yourself? Or have you worked on it? Or
Yeah, absolutely. I was taught my whole life, right? Well, not my whole life, but really when I got into like upper teens and in college, you need a business plan. You need a business plan, and this is the way to do a business plan. And then my world was really rocked when I met a guy a while ago who who really talked about how unnecessary and how irrelevant and how outdated business plans are. It doesn't mean that you don't need strategies to be successful in business. He just talked about the traditional business plan that he was taught really was irrelevant. And so, yes, I think you need a business plan, but before that, you need to understand who you are and where you're trying to go, and really develop a personal constitution. Because let me give you an example. If I'm a writer and a speaker, right, and someone invite me to speak to an event that's totally contradictory to my values, but yet I haven't clarified, okay, these are some things I will do, these are some things I will not do, then I might end up making a little compromise. But then what if it's another event? Hey, we want you to write a poem about something that totally contradicts what I believe and what I did or what I feel. Well, it's not that big of a deal. I'm just a writer, you know what I'm saying? I just drove a car, I ain't really robbed the bank. But in terms of the actual business side, I think you really need people. You need three things. Let me just make it simple. You need three things. Number one, you need a clear vision for yourself. Number two, you need accountability. And number three, you need people who are more experienced than you to help you navigate the path that you're on to get to where they believe and where you believe you can be.
Thank you for breaking it down like that. That's great. So where do you find your how did you get clear on those things for yourself?
I got clear on messing up a whole lot. Messing up a whole lot. And then ultimately, I'm a believer, I don't know your audience, but I'm a believer in, like, man, the scriptures have life in them. And there's a scripture that talks about, the bad, like you try to remember scripture, you can't remember it, so you mess up something, and then somebody's like, that ain't what the Bible says. But anyway, anyway, there's a scripture that it's very simple, and sometimes we miss it. And it says that the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, right? In life, I think we're all looking for wisdom and understanding. We're looking to know who we are, why we're here, and how much potential we have. And the scripture says that the fear of the Lord, so this reverence, right, really going back to God, the manufacturer, gives us that sense of clarity. So for me, in that process, what happened was I failed a whole lot. And I did what I was supposed to do. I went to school and I made good grades so I can get into college. I got into college and I got a good job. And when I got that good job, I started really questioning, what is good really? Like what does it mean? I had a good job. I had benefits. I was doing my job with my eyes closed. I mean, it wasn't bad, but it was just like, okay, there has to be something else. And then I went to the next thing, and then the next thing. And then through that process, it's like I took a little bit here, a little bit there. And now I know for certain that God has put me on this earth to really empower communities of African descent, really empower the world through communities of African descent, so that we can show people who God is, and then we can use our finances, our creative ability, our family capacity, and all that to truly change the world.
So when you got clear on that, because you spoke it to me with such conviction, when you finally got clear on that, how did that change how you moved forward in your life?
It's kind of like knowing your center of gravity. And if people know martial arts and other types of forms of science that really heavily predicate things based off of center of gravity, you know that a lot of times you listen to fighters, they'll tell you if you're really quick and you have somebody, you look at where they are, right, where their hips are moving. And depending on where their hips are moving, it tells you where their punch is going to land or where their kick is going to land. And if you can be quicker, then you can hit them before they hit you. And I think that's what it's like knowing your purpose. It's your center of gravity, right? And sometimes we think that life is this, esoteric journey where we have to search 30 or 40 or 50 or 100 years to find out who we are. And it's not true. But once you know your center of gravity, you can always go back to that, right? You can always go back and focus. So if you swing and you miss, it's cool because you know your center of gravity. And you know that you're not going to be easily knocked off your course because you know where your center of gravity is. And so knowing your center of gravity really enables you to more strategically and more intentionally focus where you're going to land your punches. That is your money, your time, your finances, your family vision, who you interact with, what engagements you take, how much you choose to place value on your services, and all of those things.
That's a really great visual right there. And so when you discovered that, then that's when you felt like you found your center of gravity.
Yeah, and I would say one more thing. Like I really learned the hard way that it's okay to say no. Like there are some people that I had to stop associating myself with, not because they were bad people, they were drinking, smoking, and convinced me to do bad things. It's just that where they were going in life didn't align with where I was going in life. And we remain acquaintances and associates, and we're still cool, but we just can't hang out all the time because your vision doesn't match my vision. It's like we're on the same level, but we on different planes going to a different destination. So it's cool to say hi from the window, hey, but I'm not hopping on a plane with you because we're going in two different directions.
Yeah. That is a great lesson as we grow older and mature in our purpose and grow in our faith. And, you know, just those are hard lessons, and those have been hard lessons for me to learn because I get very attached to the people in my life. But like you said, you just have to step on that plane and it might just go a different direction, and that's okay. Um, I wanted to ask you about your personal values. You'd mentioned earlier when you take a job or do a speaking event or do something, you still need to know what your core values are. And I was just curious, what are like your top three values that you don't compromise on?
I would say my relationship with God. I would say my personal integrity, which means that how I define myself, my self worth. And another one would be the value of knowing, where I'm headed in life. And if something, contradicts that, then I have to move on. I'll give a story. I probably shouldn't give it, but I don't care. I'm gonna give it anyway. I was on this. I had a contract for this particular position, and it was time to renegotiate that position. And when we was renegotiating that position, I called, some of my mentors and stuff. I said, hey, this is what I feel like I'm worth. This is what I feel like I can add value to the organization. And I said, should I just take what they're giving me and just kind of humble down, right? Because that's what we commonly associate being humble with, like it's being walked on, which is not true. Humility is not thinking of yourself or your gifts. Humility is not thinking too highly of yourself or your gifts or too lowly. Humility is not thinking of yourself at all. So anyway, I said, what should I do? And my mentor said, listen, you have to remember that you have to know your value and you have to at least put it out there. And so I said, this is what I feel like I'm worth. And I had a track record of success with this particular contract and this organization. And when I was in the process of negotiating that, they said, hey, listen, you know what? Thanks, but no thanks. We don't take it. We previously offered you a contract, but we're taking that contract back. And I walked away from that. That was an income source now, and the struggle is real on these streets, so people know how it is. But I walked away from that feeling like I didn't compromise my value. I knew what I was worth, and I knew that if I stayed in a position where they wanted me to stay, I would have been miserable because I wouldn't have been able to do the things that I know God has called me to do. So that means that sometimes when you stand on your personal constitution and your personal values, then doors will close. But right after that happened, an opportunity that tremendously blessed me, literally about a couple weeks later, opened up. So that's
Wow.
just how it works sometimes.
Wow. If someone wants to create a personal constitution for themselves, how can they get started on that?
That's a great question. And I wish I had a very specific answer. But I think the first step is, the first step is really a person needs to get away, like away from everything. Like if you have kids and stuff like that, it may be hard to just leave because you can go to jail for that kind of stuff these days. But but you really do have to create some space and time for yourself to have silence. No television, no distractions, like just be silent. Because silence sometimes really helps us confront our deepest anxieties, fears, and concerns. And when we can identify those things that are truly on our heart, right? The good and the bad, then we can write it out. And then after that, we go to people and we really assess, you know, areas of our personal areas of strengths and weaknesses with those people. And then from there, I think you can develop a constitution. But, you know, I think a simple way to do it is just simply this. Number one, you got to get away. Like, seriously, like no television, no phones, no nothing, just you and silence. The first maybe 4, 5, 6 hours, your brain is just going to be slowing down. But after that, then your brain becomes open and then you can really hear and truly listen to what's happening, right, on the inside of you. And I believe you need some God in your life. So, you know what I'm saying? Hopefully you got some God in there speaking to you somewhere. But then from there, just write down all the things you're passionate about, all the things you love doing. And then have another list of the things that you absolutely, positively hate doing, right? And then you take a look at those and then you can, you know, get with some accountability folks who ever help you walk through those.
So number one, get away.
You gotta get away. That's first and foremost.
Everything. And allow your brain hours to slow down. And then listen, number two. Right? I'm on the right course here.
You're on it. You're on it. You're on it.
Listen to God. Bring some paper with you and write down all the things you absolutely love to do. Write down things you hate to do. And make sure you have accountability and mentorship in your life to kind of dive deep with those things.
Yeah. And I think an important question that we seldom ask is if you really, if we heard it all the time, but I really want to challenge somebody to really think about this question. If you did not have to work for money, you did, like you just woke up, like Beyonce said, you just woke up like this and you was balling, right? What is the thing or the things that you can see yourself doing day in and day out, you know, until you're taken from this earth? That's an important question, because when you're really able to answer that question, then you'll be able to really answer, you know, what do you believe, you know, God has put you here for?
Yes.
I sound like I know what I'm talking about, huh?
Yeah. Mr. Tim Swain, everybody. Wow. No, I mean, I've done that before. I mean, I've got kids, and I legally went away for a trip. Yes, I made sure.
Clarifying.
Yes.
Girl, I'm finna get away. Watch out.
Yes.
Leave them kids at home by themselves.
I did. I went to Chicago. It was actually during the, gosh, what is that conference in Chicago that a lot of guys like to go to? My husband goes every year in the summer. Oh my gosh, what is it?
I have no idea.
So a lot of musicians go. Legacy? Is that it?
There's so many. Legacy, there's Passion, there's so many.
I think it's Legacy. Yeah, I went and I spent a weekend, and my friend's parents have a condo or something right on Michigan Avenue. It's really nice. They let me stay there for the whole weekend, and I literally just laid on the couch for a long time thinking. And then it was just like what you said. So it took a while for my brain to like release and calm down. And then I started to just write. I mean, it kind of went just like what you said. But it would take me a while before I found some mentors, honestly. So I think adding some patience in there into that mix and the ingredients.
Definitely patience. It doesn't come overnight, especially if your life has been like most Americans, like on the highway of life, and you're zooming down, trying to get a degree, trying to get a good job. Asking yourself to slow down and start thinking about these other things is like placing a brick wall in front of you and saying, okay, stop. That's not safe. It just doesn't happen that way. You have to really ease into it. Otherwise, you can crash and burn, and it's not good. And then sometimes, you know, you just got to jump out there and do things. So it depends on your circumstance or situation.
Right. Yes, because sometimes it's about waiting to grow the character and the personal development to get to the next level. Because I know that if God had done certain things or revealed certain things to me, like years ago, I wouldn't have been ready at all. But then sometimes it's like, okay, you've been uh, paralyzed by overanalyzing stuff, and it's time to stop and step out on the water. So really being able to assess, which one applies at which time takes some time and maturity and growth. I wanted to kind of jump back to something you just said about assessing the circumstance and jumping out there. So I wanted to know, in your life, have there been times where you felt afraid? Because I know a lot of times artists and creatives feel afraid to take that first step or put something out there or share who they are or share their work, and they just spend so much time in their heads that they never actually do. So I wanted to know, did you ever go through that, and how did you overcome that?
All the time, son.
All the time, son.
All the time. There's so many times. I'll give you an example. This is not particularly related to art, but there are some transferable principles. The way that I left my job to work with the organization that we met through was I was literally at my desk, and I finished doing a program. It was fun, and I remember thinking, God, like I love this, but there has to be I know that I can could be doing more. And I remember listening to Dr. Miles Monroe, the late great Dr. Miles Monroe, and he said this phrase transformed my life. He said, "Sometimes the enemy to greatness is doing that which is good." My job was a good thing, but being on that job didn't enable me to accomplish my greatness. So literally that same day, I typed up my 30-day notice because I wanted to be responsible, and I gave it to my supervisor. My supervisor looked at me and she said, "What took you so long?" Because she saw that where I was just a rest stop. It wasn't my final destination. And literally, I left my job 30 days later on a Friday. I went to get trained on a Sunday, and then I met the person who is now my wife on that following Saturday. So when you take, it's not even a leap of faith. Sometimes when you just walk in faith, God didn't tell us to take leaps of faith. God said walk in faith. So when we walk in faith, sometimes we don't even know that there are doors and opportunities right there waiting for us to open. And all the time, it's not financial. Most of the time, it's not financial. Sometimes it's the things that are truly invaluable, like wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, that helps you acquire the finances. But I think that's transferable, especially in art, because as an artist, whether you be a visual artist or a rapper, a singer, whatever it is that you do, you know, that same supervisor told me this quote that transformed my life. She said that it's good to have progressive improvement over postponed perfection. So stay in school, get your degree, please. Okay, if you're currently in school, get your degree, but you can still progressively build your artistry one brick at a time. And I believe sometimes it takes more faith to work on like your main thing full time, and then work on your passion part time. But if you build it with brick, it's going to be sustainable versus building, you know what I'm saying, a house made out of straw in one day versus a castle made out of brick over 2 or 3 years.
Hmm. So what are you doing to build your bricks now? This is what you do full time now, right?
This is what I do. Yeah, with the young men that I work with and all the stuff I've told you. Yeah. What I do to build those bricks is I continually write. I make writing a priority, as well as right now we're in the midst of planning this trip, our next trip to Ghana. So that's taking up a lot of time, just programming and stuff like that. Just got back from Ghana about 3 weeks ago, doing some planning for it. So between those things, I think really prioritizing writing, putting it on my schedule. My wife and I just had a time where we did some goal setting for the rest of the year, as well as some vision boarding. I think it's important to sit down and plan your year, your days. Otherwise, you just kind of go about, kind of trying to figure out what happened. So I try to plan intentionally the direction that I know that God is leading me towards. Number one, my writing and speaking ability. Number two, what I'm doing overseas in Ghana. And then number three, what I'm saying, my family, focusing on spending time with that. So being intentional in all those areas and really taking time to plan out activities and things that's going to help enhance those is pretty much what I'm doing.
Right.
Is that too vague and too general?
No, actually, no, I think that's really good. I think I just wanted to add for anyone listening that might say, well, I don't have anything to put on my schedule. Um, this is the first year where I've put stuff on my schedule out. Like I'm out a couple months, which I don't normally do. And for me, I still work a part-time job as a writer with a marketing firm. But for me, I think I had to decide to put training into, for me, I wanted to put trainings on the schedule so I can get better at what I want to do eventually full time.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm an actor, a filmmaker, and I've written my first book and I want to get that published this year.
Really? Girl, go ahead with your bad self.
I cannot wait for this. So for me, I want to go to Second City to do some training, which is one of the birthplaces of comedy. So I looked up online. I was like, well, I want to travel to Chicago. I want to do training. Let me see when that comes up. Put that on my schedule. I want to do this film festival. Let me put that on the schedule. And then, like you said, the writing needs to go every day. So if you want to be a writer or you want to be a dancer or you want to be something and you may not have engagements to put on your schedule, I would really suggest putting in growth on your schedule, classes and training and networking and things like that, so that you can eventually get to the place where hopefully you're getting engagements and paid work through that. But if you're like, I don't have anything to put on my schedule, well, that's a good place to start. Even start with coffee with people that you look up to and take them out for coffee and ask them questions and go there with a purpose. Don't say, I want to pick your brain. Don't do that.
And have no plan, and you sit down with that person. So, what do you want to talk about? Please don't do that. I would say this for all of the folks. For all of the folks that are God-fearing folks who feel like God has put them here for something greater. I'm going to tell you from my personal experience. There's this passage in Scripture, right, where I think it's Elisha or Elijah. He prophesied that there would not be rain over the land. And then some years passed by, and then rain was about to come back. And he told, one of the senior officials, he's like, yo, get prepared, it's about to rain. And then he said, go dig some ditches to capture the rain, right? And then he was like, how many? And here's the thing. This is kind of like our lives. The number of ditches that he dug showed how much he was expecting to receive. So in your life, right, people are praying for an opportunity. God, I just want to write, I want to sing, I want to dance. But what would you do, right, if you had the opportunity to audition for a movie, but you haven't practiced, you haven't been ready, you're going to miss that opportunity. I think it was Lyndon Ravenhill that said that opportunities of a lifetime must be seized in the lifetime of the opportunity. See, God will present us with the opportunity, but if we're not ready for it, then see, delayed preparation equals delayed preparation. No preparation equals delayed manifestation. That's one of the preacher terms for people right there. Lack of preparation equals delayed manifestation. So if you're not preparing for it, it doesn't mean it's not going to happen. It just means that it didn't happen when it could have happened. And then sometimes we kind of default on, maybe God had other plans. No, we had other plans, and we just were not ready for the opportunity when it came to us.
Yes. Yeah, it took me a while to realize that, because you almost think, I know that everything's in God's control, but at the same time, it's like you have some control by getting prepared too.
Absolutely.
So opportunities are all around us, actually, because we stepped out last year and made a film for a film festival. Now I've got a completed film, and now I can say, oh my gosh, it's January. All these film festivals are laid out this year. I can actually enter my film that I made last year because we decided to go and put this film together for a festival. And I didn't even realize at that time that I was creating something that would allow me to participate at the next level when it came to filmmaking, because I'd never had anything to put into a film festival. I'd just sit around and be like, oh, it would be nice to put something in the Heartland Film Festival. For years. For years I did that. But it started last year to be ready for the opportunity this year. So
Exactly.
totally do.
How would you feel if you went to the doctor, right, and you went to the dentist with a toothache, and then you just happen to ask him or her, hey, by way, where'd you go to medical school? Well, I didn't go to medical school. The Lord just kind of put it in my heart to be a dentist, and I'm just here. So
I would get up out of that chair.
And you would leave, right? You'd be like, nah, brother. You'd be like, hey, well, hold on, dog. You're not getting in my mouth. But that's what we do. We're like, well, where'd you study acting? Well, where'd you study writing? What conferences have you been to? I haven't been to any conferences. I just feel like I'm supposed to be here. Like, no, like, get ready. And the thing is, God will meet you where you are. You don't have to be, like, prepared. Progressive improvement over postponed perfection.
Can you say that one more time?
Progressive improvement over postponed perfection. Shout out to Cheryl Richards who taught me that.
Awesome. This is great. I hope that this is helping you guys to look at things, have a different perspective about what you can do until you see opportunities. So lastly, I think this has been a really great conversation, but I really wanted to talk about your goals. Like, where do you see yourself in the future? Where are you trying to strive towards?
I have goals in different areas. I have family goals. I have hashtag relationship goals. I have, business goals. I think a snapshot is just being better, being able to influence more people, which means that increasing, my bookings on campuses and the opportunities, not necessarily bookings, but just opportunities to speak and really try to educate people. Some of my goals as well is to continue to build up the work that we're doing in Ghana to really help more people, to change more lives. And I have very specific goals, like I want to accomplish this by this time and this by that time, but we don't have time to describe all that. But I have goals in different areas of my life. One of my immediate ones, a health goal, is to run a marathon this year. And so my game plan is I need to go see the doctor because I'm having some knee troubles, and that happened after my last one that I did. But this is the way I prepared for my goal. I said, okay, what is it that I want to do? I wrote it down. How much is it going to cost? How much training do I need? Okay, where am I right now in relationship to my goal? Okay, I'm right here. So now here are the next steps. I need to go to the doctor, make sure I get a full checkout. Now I need a training schedule. I need to know I need to run X number of days a week, yada, yada, yada. And then from there, just purposely working that goal. And that's how it is in every area of my life, the financial, the family, the ministry, the writing, the speaking, all that kind of stuff.
So you start with the overall goal, and then you start to break it down into
Exactly.
And work that action every day. So I wanted to say something real quick that I'm learning this year is for every year, I usually have like a word or something that kind of drives me through that year. And I can share mine because we're friends here. It's for me, it's consistency. Mm-hmm. And that's something that I used to be very consistent when I was younger and I was a gymnast, but it wasn't really something that it was from me. It was just like, this was my life. I just did it. But I've had certain goals that keep passing by every year. And I just realized, you know what? I have to build consistency into my life every single day. And that's boring.
It is boring.
Boring if you run a marathon and you have to just go run. Like, you have to practice.
And it's cold outside too?
Yeah.
Come on, thanks to God.
So, I would say for sometimes the artistic or creative personality, we want passion, we want excitement, we want, the end result. We want to see that. Like, I love to make things by hand, but I want to get it all done so I can see the finished result. But this type of stuff, these bigger goals, it takes that consistency every single day, and literally just being like, well, I didn't really finish the whole goal today. I only did a tiny part of it, and it was not that gratifying, and it was kind of boring, and it was really hard. But then over time, over time, hopefully January 1st, 2017, you know, I will, have achieved my goals, and I'll be wearing the size dress that I hope to wear in 2017. But that's like the core. See, it's not just about fitness for me, it's building confidence, and I think that confidence is going to lead into my other work as an actor and a performer and a filmmaker. So I try to find that seed goal that blossoms and touches all my other goals. And so it took me a while to figure out, like, everyone wants to get in shape and lose weight every year, and I do too, but I also realized that could be stopping me from some of my other goals. So yeah, I had to do some work and find that. Once I find that one thing, then I can use that to catapult the other things. So do you ever think about your goals like that?
I do. And my overarching goal for this year is, I actually have a word as well, and the word is intentional. And my overarching goal for this year is to not look back and have regrets. No regrets, no fear, just faith. That's all. If I can look back and say, I failed, but I failed gloriously, then I'm okay with that. No fear, no regrets, just faith.
Sounds like the t-shirt.
It does. It does.
If you make that t-shirt, I'll buy it.
It's actually in the process.
Oh, okay. Well,
no fear, no regrets, just faith.
Well, if there is a place I can sign up for that, are you going to announce it on your newsletter?
Yeah, when it comes out, yeah, you know what I'm saying?
Well, you guys, if you sign up for, you can start with signing up for my newsletter, and then I will be sure to pass it along if and when the t-shirt comes out, so that you guys can get that no regret, no fear?
No fear, no regrets, just faith.
Just faith. I think that is the perfect place to end this conversation today, guys. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for taking time out of your busy schedules, and I hope that this was really inspiring for you guys. And you guys, Mr. Tim Swain, isn't he awesome? I was totally inspired today, ready to get revved up to work on the things that I feel God's put on my heart. If you guys want to find out more about Mr. Tim Swain, check out the description box. You can find him on everything as Mr. Tim Swain, like he said before. Tim, is there anything else you want to say before we head out?
Thank you, Deja, for allowing me this opportunity to come and kick it at the Inspire Cafe. The only thing I'm missing is just like a mug to take a sip.
I know.
But it's a blessing to be here. Thank you for what you're doing, and thank everybody for listening. And I truly do hope that something that was said will truly help you to be better today than you were, better tomorrow than you were today.
Yes. And the mugs are coming.
The who?
The mugs.
Oh, the mugs. Oh, gotcha. I thought you said the moths. I was like, that's not cool.
The moth?
Yeah, I thought you said the moths were coming. I'm like, that's not hot at all. That's actually gross. But no, that's it. So thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Okay. Bye, guys.